Hey Sonia, how are you?
Hi. Very well. Thank you.
My pleasure entirely.
I
Am I
am
audible and visible?
You're audible and visible. Absolutely. Perfectly.
Thank you so much. How have you been?
Busy?
I can imagine.
Excited?
Where exactly are you geographically right now?
Geographically, Delhi.
Delhi, okay.
The place that I don't like much, but I'm here. I envy the place where you are, but I'm not there.
Grass is always greener here. And though I don't envy where you are at all.
Then it's fine. Correct. So we are on the same page. This is not the place to be envied, but yeah. But yours is great. How have you been?
All good, yeah.
Busy, busy, changing the way we consume entertainment.
Right now it's a question of survival, yeah. The way things are right now, especially for the Hindi industry. We are not in in public right now, right? It's
No,
just the
no,
two
no.
of us. So it's
Uh, no, no, no. It's just us. Yeah.
pretty scary time. The way films have been faring.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. The going. So I think the whole predictability is no more a predictability, is it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. See, but yeah, every churn leads to something good only at the end of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure some correction will come in.
But right now is the time when everybody is taking it deep down. Then.
Yeah, and especially after 2 years of disruption anyway,
Yeah.
no
Can
good
imagine.
news on the anvil. Yeah.
No, and it's another scale altogether. It's not like chota mota scale ना मतलब at a feature at a cinema level करोड़ों में बात होती है सारी चीजों की. So then
Exactly, hundreds of crores rather. Yeah.
hundreds of crores, yeah. So I
Like
mean कितना भी पैसा हो but मतलब ऐसे भी कैसे हो सकता है कि like मतलब 500,000 करोड़ चला जाए और किसी को कुछ फर्क ही ना पड़े. That तो is not possible.
बहुत फर्क पड़ता है यार.
Hmm. So what? So the people who were regularly investing are not investing kind of a thing is also happening?
I don't know, see, it's early days yet,
Hmm.
but obviously, see, ours is anyway a fundamentally very risky business.
Hmm.
So, with a very, very skewed success rate. So, when even your so-called show shots start failing,
Hmm.
like your superstars and big banners, then obviously there's a crisis of confidence.
Yeah, crazy.
Anyway, I
नहीं
guess
सच
we'll
में
cross the
मतलब
bridge.
हाँ मतलब मैं ever since I've been speaking to you I've been just thinking I've really been thinking कि like what is it like at a filmmaker level independent
Hmm.
filmmaker के level पे तो बहुत ही comparatively बहुत ही छोटा game होता है like it's more about I want to tell my story I just want to tell my story and it's a couple of lakhs to a couple of crores maybe and that's about it, right? But at the producer level the person who everybody's chasing and in a way starts to feel कि वो सुनते नहीं हैं स्टोरी नहीं सुनते हैं बात नहीं करते and all that, but the game is very different at that level, and today's time of course and this whole OTT thing मुझे तो समझ ही नहीं आ रहा आपको मुझे समझाना होगा कि ये OTT का सीन क्या है ये like all of all of the people, for everybody it's a mystery whether, of course everybody knows that it's here to stay,
Hmm.
agreed, but how do
Hmm.
you find yourself in the thing? Okay, one second, sorry. Yeah, yeah, guys, sorry, let everybody in. We will continue our chats.
Just a casual chat, right? Nothing
Yeah, yeah.
smooth,
No, no. Just like we said, just want to know what's your day at work.
very ordinary day. Sitting having coffee.
Sitting and having coffee and managing the Producers Guild of India. Correct. Modesty thy name. So we have Malhar is obviously a very very humble effort, but what honestly what excites me the most about Malhar is this fact that we are actually able to connect from different parts of the world, irrespective of the language barriers, irrespective of affordability factor of if I was to host this festival in a Delhi or a Bombay, kitne log aa paate hain? It's
Right.
like I mean somebody from Mexico, somebody from El Salvador, who will be able to like come, but each person is equally important from their storytelling, so that really is what we did last year, and then that just kept on going for this year.
Typically,
And
what kind of films do you show?
so these are all short films under 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and we are a thematic festival. So last year we had the theme of lockdown stories, sticking to because we had the festival in September, so we were in the middle of the pandemic, you know.
Right.
That is another story I'll share later. But this time we have five themes. So gender, passion, migration, education, and health.
And this is open to everyone. Language, nationality, no bar.
No bar. No bar.
Oh, great.
In fact, but what we have emphasized is that we should actually have the films from the filmmakers or native language.
Right.
You know, I seriously believe that a lot of times we twist our narrative just to fit in an English paradigm just because it has a global coverage. But till the time you're speaking in your own language, वो बात ही नहीं आती है. You know,
Absolutely.
that emotion won't
Right.
come. And we are in a better time. Like right now we are in a time when regional, you know, regional को ऐसे side में करते थे, but it's accepted and it's being talked about. So at Malhar we are holding two three forts. One is to make sure that people understand that there is a market for every film.
Right.
You know, it has to be. We just have to work our way towards finding that market for ourselves.
Right.
A lot of times, you know, नजर कहीं पे होती है, कर कुछ और कर रहे होते हैं, and then you feeling कि match नहीं हो रहा, you know. So that's something that we want. The second thing that we've taken upon ourselves is to make sure that the productions out of India have
Mm.
a global feel. And
Mm.
I think the only difference that we have is in the production capacity. You know, storytelling, we are awesome. We have great stories we tell, but it's just what we lack a little bit comparatively to global independent filmmaking is production quality. So that's what we are measuring also within Malhar. You know, that what comes in that level. So these two things, you know, focusing on local narratives, independent filmmakers, and making sure that we expand in the production capacity.
Great. And like I couldn't agree more with especially your first point. No point trying to tailor make your content to some perceived market. Just be true to yourself, and that's what works.
Yeah.
We are watching Squid Game, right? And Money Heist and Narcos, which
Yeah.
are very rooted in their own geographies and old cultures.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
But
artifice comes through. If you try to just, make it for the market,
hmm,
doesn't really work.
hmm. Because market is too big and too
Right,
diverse. You know, it's not a few people. So
right,
again, it's like from that big market, which side you follow, that's an awareness. You know, it's like a very like in our startup community, there is a similar example where we say that okay, our perceived value of our customer is this. You know, it should be these corporate high flying guys, you know, moving around in BMWs, and so that's what we're chasing. But actually our product is for students, you know,
right.
like it works for them. But then because one has not thought through that, so you're wasting so much time and money chasing the person who it's not built for. The whole
Right.
understanding your TG is a never ending conversation. All right. Oh, we have crossed the time in our chit chat. Okay. So let's. Okay, so we just had a session before this, so I think a lot of people would have gone on a larger bio break with that. So it's all right. These are recorded sessions, so people will have access later. So without wasting much time, welcome. I I know you've told me not to call you sir, but I end up calling you sir. So welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us at Malhar. It's an absolute honor. I can't imagine that the CEO of Producers Guild of India is sitting right here. And we are going to hear you from your experiences. And you representing all the producers of the country and speaking from there is huge for us. So thank you so much for agreeing to join us.
My pleasure entirely, Sonia. I'm so glad you invited me. And I'm really looking forward to interacting with you as well, also others. And really looking forward to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, so we, like I said, that we are a very diverse community of filmmakers from different parts of India and from different parts of the globe. But considering that you represent the Producers Guild of India, I am assuming that all of India matters to you, you know, and I think all of India looks up to the Producers Guild or to the producers. So today's discussion is going to be interactive. If anybody has any questions at any point of time, either unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. Don't hold your thoughts, or just put it in the chat and I'll take it up at the right time. All right. Uh, but I think having a conversation with Mr. Ahuja is not easy. So whatever are the questions, let's bring it on. Yeah. So I was wondering, sir, that we have no idea what does your day look like at work. What does the CEO of Producers Guild of India does? So, could you take us through your fancy life?
So very often, even I don't have an idea what my day is and what I'm supposed to be doing. See, broadly, the Producers Guild has a very broad mandate, which is to serve and protect producers' interests. Now, that can take various shapes. Most often, it involves, weighing in on legislation that impacts producers.
Hmm.
Now, this could to do with copyright changes, corporate change the Copyright Act, tax proposals, regulation on TV, CBFC, which is censor board, on OTT. Then also, increasingly, a lot of governments abroad, as also at state level, are looking to attract filmmakers to shoot in their country oblique state because there are a lot
Right.
of economic benefits that you derive from it. So, we talk to them and tell them what producers are looking at, look at the existing policies, maybe tweak it. Piracy remains, a cancer which never goes away. So you keep trying to fight it the best way you can. Then even stuff like when if you remember when COVID hit us,
Mm-hmm.
production was disrupted hugely.
Yeah.
So we sat down with producers and also health experts, tried to come up with SOPs which were robust, has also made production possible, lobbied with governments to allow shootings to take place, extend shooting hours, given that it's a pretty closed unit as opposed to a retail outlet,
Hmm.
arrange for vaccines. So, there's no structure to any day or what the role is. It's
Right.
pretty much do whatever is required at any point of time.
And that's a lot.
Hope so. I hope the members are listening in. Yeah.
So, like you obviously were not the CEO of the Producers Guild forever. You've held very, very iconic institution, the box office from 2009 to 19, the moving pictures. Like, I mean, these are just the names that we all have obviously followed and referred to, but you have founded them, So, from your that level of leadership, risk taking appetite, and also having a vision that is not something like, I mean, there aren't many weekly publication trade magazines called box office, right? So you obviously thought of it at some point when nobody was doing that, right? And fine, there are many production houses, but moving pictures has its own credibility, has its own label, right? Now, so the way I look at you is that you've always thought of a gap in the space and try to solve it in your own ways, and you've done a damn good job out of it. And now being at the CEO position for Producers Guild, like you said, that you are taking care of what's the in the interest of the producers. What are the things that you would say that we as independent filmmakers should know about the producer's life, the risk taker's life, the person who's taking it all's life?
I think what you should know is that it's a very hard industry to get into and succeed in.
Hmm.
But having said that, it's an industry which follows talent, follows success at the end of the day. So no matter how bleak things may seem at any point of time, you should know that once you prove yourself in anything, it could just be your short film, it could just be something which has won an award, the industry will chase you. So, and you'll be here to stay. This is a very transactional industry.
Mm-hmm.
You are only as good as your last Friday. So, so it may seem hard to break into, have, you know, hold on to the hope that once you arrive, then you really arrive.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, there are structural issues for sure. So very often independent filmmakers think, "Arey yaar, मेरी film कभी screen पे लगेगी ही नहीं,"
Hmm.
because all the biggies corner shows and all that. And if you want, we can get into what these structural issues are. Should we get into that now?
Sure, please. Yeah.
Right. So, see, we have to recognize that we are a huge country with a population of what 1.3 billion people.
Yeah.
However, if you look at the number of cinema screens, we
Hmm.
barely have eight and a half thousand screens serving the entire population. Now, to give you a sense of perspective, United States of America, which has what one third, one fourth of population, has 4 to 5 times as many screens as we have. Look at China, which has, I think, pretty much an identical population as we do.
Hmm.
They have 9 to 10 times the number of screens we have. So you
Imagine.
have a huge population, very limited number of screens. On top of that, you are the biggest film producing country in the world.
Right.
Almost 2,000 films get censored by, or certified, which is what they like to say, not censored, by CBFC,
Hmm.
hoping for a theatrical release.
Hmm.
So 52 weeks, 2,000 films, 8,000 screens. Now, obviously, your PVR and your Inoxes and your Carnivals, they will, given the sheer paucity of screens, they will try to see what has the most market potential,
Right.
which typically means a superstar
Hmm.
or a big banner. Not that it works. In fact, most often it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you should recognize that these are the barriers which probably makes independent filmmakers feel कि हमारी film आ नहीं रही है. There is
Hmm.
no design to keep anyone away. But if you remember, who would have thought a film like Lunchbox would do well,
Yeah.
or Gangs of Wasseypur? Times are changing, and I think that has been slightly accelerated. In fact, very uh, speedily accelerated by the content we are seeing on OTT, for example.
Yeah.
Tastes are changing. So I think there'll be a time when, and hopefully as number of screens improve, there'll be enough space to showcase everyone.
But why are there such less screens, considering we love cinema so much?
I think real estate cost may be an issue. Then I don't know whether, I think regulatory issues for setting up a theater, in terms of multiple permissions could be an issue. That I think is best addressed by exhibitors.
Right.
But on the face of it, it's a cinema-loving country.
Hmm.
We make so many films. There should definitely be more screens in our country for sure.
Hmm. So, how is the coming of the OTT?
Hmm.
Is it helping this gap get filled? Where do you see, from your leadership point of view, foresightedness of yours? Is this gap getting filled, or is it temporary?
I think it definitely helps. See, as a producer, whether you're making a big film or a small film, ultimately you want a platform.
Hmm.
So if you have a very high visibility platform like a Netflix or Amazon or Hotstar, which makes you reach out to the audience,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always great as a filmmaker. And given the fact that as we just spoke about, there is very limited screen space. So
Right.
this is a great alternate platform for you to have. I think more importantly, especially from the perspective of the audience we have, these are international platforms.
Hmm.
So you never know what someone in Mexico is liking your film, someone in Spain is liking your film, which is
Yeah.
not always achieved in the theatrical perspective.
Correct.
And in fact, the 2 years that theaters were pretty much shut in the country, I think producers pretty much survived from the fact that they had a alternate platform to reach out
Hmm.
to. So, and very often we tend to think of it as theaters versus OTT,
Hmm.
as if they are like it's either or situation.
Right.
Whereas there's been enough research and data to support that they actually go hand in hand.
Hmm.
Like forget the pandemic because that's obviously an outlier. If
Yeah.
you look at the data leading up to it, the box office both globally and in India
Hmm.
grew in tandem with subscribers numbers of all these platforms.
Right.
So I think they support each other and they help each other, complementary mediums.
But what about the consumer behavior, the user behavior? Because of course, OTT has given us a lot of comfort. The travel, the traffic, the time, or the real problems.
Right.
More than the heroic problems. So isn't that coming? Isn't that causing a challenge for the cinemas largely? Like, how do they? How are you saying they're okay being together? But the way I see is that probably OTT is like really challenging the cinemas to rise and shine and grow the way they were.
I think it's challenging everyone. I think it's also challenging filmmakers. See, there are strengths and weaknesses of both mediums, whether
Sure.
it is OTT or cinema halls.
Hmm.
I think and see, we are in very early days of
Right.
cinema has been there for more than 100 years. OTTs are what, especially for us, a hardly 5, 10-year-old phenomenon.
True.
And things will churn.
Hmm.
I think what might happen is that there'll be a certain kind of cinema
Hmm.
which is more intimate, let's say more dramatic, which could gravitate towards a home viewing experience that OTT is.
Hmm.
But something on a larger scale, whether it is Bahubali here or Avengers over there,
Hmm.
and cinema also is a very communal experience. So if it's a comedy or a horror, you like to watch it with the audience.
Hmm.
So I guess different genres of films, different scales of films will either find themselves going straight to OTT or having a first run in theaters.
Hmm. So, for the changing times, What are the new revenue streams that are coming up?
See, revenue streams keep evolving with time.
Mm-hmm.
So, box office, of course, remains a predominant or very important contributor.
Right.
Uh, Satellite television is an important contributor.
Hmm.
Lately, digital, what we call digital, but actually it means streaming is a very important contributor. Now, unlike Hollywood films, as you know, most Indian films have original music
Yeah.
and not they don't pick up Purana soundtracks. So music rights is a used to be huge, but unfortunately because of piracy, the values have come down.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have these small TV now aircraft rights on public transport rights,
Hmm.
and these keep evolving. Like at one time, DVDs used to be a huge right that you gave
Absolutely.
off. Now that whole market has vanished.
Hmm.
So it keeps evolving, but I think there'll always be a demand for entertainment,
Yeah.
and the rights will keep evolving accordingly.
Hmm.
So, like, if you talk in terms of changes, like earlier overseas theatrical used to be very small, sort of a right for Indian filmmakers,
Hmm.
and you're basically banking on the Indian diaspora in typically United States, UK, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But if you look at the highest grossing original Hindi film, which is Dangal,
Hmm.
it has actually made 4 times as much money in China than it has in India. So I think that is hopefully some signs that that crossover will ultimately happen, and
Hmm.
we will reach out to your non-Desi audiences too at some point of time. But of course, it all depends on the content, and the onus is on us to make that step.
But speaking of Dangal specifically, what this kind of a success of Dangal, is it purely the content that was like really loved in China, or did it actually go through some sort of a different distribution pattern, different outreach? Was there something differently done for Dangal that sort of worked in China?
See, I think it was definitely helped by the fact that Amir Khan was a hugely popular star anyway by then,
Hmm.
because his previous films like I think PK had done
Yeah.
pretty well over there. So had Three Idiots, even Secret Superstar. So he had a market,
Hmm.
and you know let's not get into the politics of it, but
Yeah.
actually the Chinese values and Indian values at core are pretty similar.
Very similar. Yeah.
Family values,
Yeah.
we have come up from poverty towards going towards better days, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I think they definitely relate more to our content than they would to an alien Hollywood culture, I guess.
True. True.
That said, it's a hugely regulated market. They have a very strict quota of number of films that you can release in that country.
Hmm.
There's heavy censorship. They tell you when you can release it and how many screens you can release it. But the sheer size of the market still makes it worth pursuing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a big market just like us.
Right.
Right. You were talking about initially about the states and different countries really being encouraging for films to be shot there, to be
Right.
premiered there, right? Because it obviously brings in a lot of tourism, a lot of revenue in different ways. So for an independent filmmaker, it's a huge asset that if anybody is interested in bringing them on board, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so because it comes from the Producers Guild of India, please help us understand that what kind of incentives and benefits exist for independent filmmakers, uh, nationally and internationally.
See, they are, I think, pretty much every country
Hmm.
uh, um, internationally, and I think pretty much every Indian state now has an incentive scheme in place.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a Google. I think there is something on the Guild website too, which is producersguildindia.com, where there's a short summary.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a body called the Film Felicitation Office (FFO), which is
Right.
which is part of NFDC. So they, I think, have a good summary of all the incentives from Indian states.
Okay.
So, typically they'll have an eligibility criteria that you must shoot these many number of days over here, hire these many number of people
Right.
locally,
Yeah.
and some of those schemes are pretty interesting and attractive. Or if you plan to shoot anywhere, why not shoot in a place which gives you incentives? So that
What kind of
always helps
incentives are
economically.
these? What are these
Sorry.
incentives like?
So typically, it's like almost like a cashback. So if you spend say 1 crore in producing in that territory, they give you 15% or 20% back as as a rebate or a grant.
Nice.
And sometimes, like Rajasthan came out with a new policy where they say there will be no costs. You have to pay for permissions for shooting in any public places,
Hmm.
and they offer discounted stay and accommodation for crews in government-owned properties.
Mm-hmm.
So every state, every country has their own unique combination of incentives, and you can you can do a Google, you will find all of the information either on the Film Commission side, or for India you can go to the FFO side because I have a compilation of all Indian states.
And anybody can apply to that. There's no embargo on who can and
There's
who
no
can't.
embargo, but they do have eligibility criteria. Some have a minimum number of days shooting
Okay.
criteria.
Right.
Some have financial cost of production in that area embargo.
Hmm.
Some places also wedge scripts to see they have a culture test whether it is something you want to associate with.
Hmm.
And some people say, okay, I see tremendous benefit from you coming and shooting here. You can even shoot here and shoot it for somewhere else. So
Hmm.
like a lot of people actually shooting in UK and showing it as if it's Bombay because the incentives are so attractive over there.
That's interesting. Does anybody have a specific question to the topic that we're talking about? Because I'm not sure if we all are very well versed with this whole incentive aspect of producing in certain locations. Anything that you tried didn't work? Anything you want to try and you want to clarify with sir? Maybe you can do that right now. No, no problem. So we go ahead. Okay, great. So, considering that there are these incentives and benefit, uh, Akash is asking, is incentive similar to subsidy?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So it's in like you're saying that like the amount of money that's being spent, a certain part of it is can be returned back to you, or just facilitating the production. So giving certain locations probably would be
Right.
the kind of location you want. If it's a government owned property, they might just give it. So there is support, and I guess the way to reach to them would be through the state bodies or
Right.
through the facilitation office that so
Right.
mentioned, especially for India. All right, so that's good to know for independent filmmaker, because of course money matters to everybody, but for an independent filmmaker the stakes are high at a very low resource pool. So this is great. What about, so now we talked about that we often end up making things by guessing that this would work,
Right.
right? And sometimes and often we fail at that, right? But as when we start out, I don't think so. Starting out is never like this. Starting out is always my idea, my story, my way of saying that. And a couple of years down the line, it may become like that. That if you haven't had a huge success in your own thought process, that you may say, okay, I have to get the bread on the table. So let me just make some commercial pieces, right? Now, coming from your position where you represent the producers of the country, what would you tell us as independent filmmakers? How do we gauge what sells?
Yeah. See, I must say that what I practice may be very different from what I preach over here.
Hmm.
There is definitely a certain herd mentality which typically exists in the market or in producers.
Hmm.
So one horror film is work, let's all start making horrors.
Hmm.
Romantic comedy chale gayi, let's start making romantic comedies. So therefore you see this whole jund of similar films that come out.
Right.
And this actor's work, let everyone is queuing up in front of him.
Hmm.
Now this all stems from what we spoke of earlier. The fact that because we have such a limited number of screens, and ultimately the exhibitor is going to take a call whether I want to show this film or not, how many shows I give you or not. It's all coming from that, where you're perceiving what the market wants.
Hmm.
And I think if there's anything that we have learned over the 100 years of filmmaking, no filmmaker really knows what's going to work.
True.
Which is why even in the best of times, barely 5 to 8% films break even, forget make a profit.
Hmm.
We keep seeing these bumper headlines that is super hit, this, that,
Hmm.
hero ko Mercedes AC, but those are the outliers. Those are not, that
Far
is
and
not the
few,
norm
very
at
far
all.
and few.
So, typically what the what people say in the industry is, yeah, there's no guarantee what the audience wants.
Hmm.
So the least you can do is make a film that at least you are happy watching. And hopefully that conviction comes through. And really, if you look at, I think even in the Indian context, if you look at every filmmaker's first film,
Hmm.
it's very often the purest and the best work that
Yeah.
they make
Yeah.
because it's coming from a place of conviction, a place of lived experience, and then I think you probably get into this whole rat race of acha bhi public kya chahti hai.
Hmm.
horror comedy chahti hai, Shahrukh chahti hai, and then you fall into that, and then I think then you lose your, then there's a sameness that comes into it.
Yeah.
But this
Right.
is me as a person, and this is a personal opinion,
Sure.
not the Producers Guild of opinion, India's opinion at all.
Yeah, no, no, I was looking for your personal opinion. Just coming from the background that you're coming, there are obviously observations that one builds on, right? So, so we've been hearing even at
And just
Malhar.
to add to that, just
Yeah,
especially for the audience we have,
yeah.
like don't judge mainstream producers or talent necessarily by the kind of films they make. Almost all of them are very intelligent, very smart people, which may not translate in the films they make because they're trying to cater to a big market.
Hmm.
One thing they do see is conviction and talent. So, which is how all your Anurag Kashyap's and Imtiaz Ali's and Anurag Vasu's ultimately get noticed and come through. So, if your film comes through and your talent comes through, you'll be noticed.
Hmm. So you already answered. I was going to I was going to ask you that, considering that we must stick to our own story, the story that we really want to tell, but how do you find a producer for that if your story is not this mainstream story where you can identify that, okay, so and so producer have been investing into these kind of films, so let me go to them, right? So like you said, that of course be original and just stick to that. But in India, sir, what is currently a way to find producers, especially if the person is not sitting in Bombay, not living in Bombay? You know, what is our access to find producers, have conversations with them, be able to, pitch them?
It is very tough. Let's not make any bones about it. There's a excess of supply, very little demand. So it is tough to get through.
Hmm.
That said, I think, in recent years, I think there's an increasing understanding that the formula doesn't work anymore. We
Hmm.
need to reach out to new talent, new stories, new concepts. So I think pretty much every major production house, at least the kind of producers that are members, now they have a whole creative team
Mm-hmm.
that is actually looking out for new concepts, new writers, new talent. So you can go to all of the websites. They would typically have, so an Excel would have their own contact details over there. So would Yashraj. But that said, let's be realistic. We are flooded by such inquiries. So
Right.
it's tough to be noticed. But people do get through that way too.
Right. So currently, that's what it is. Currently, at least one improvement that has happened is that people are digitally available.
Right,
So they would have a website, they would have some social media handles, and if you approach them in a certain way, there is a possibility to get
right,
through, and that's pretty much what it is right now. And
right,
of course, like if you bang into somebody, that's another thing, right?
right.
Uh, Now, from for an independent filmmaker like we have all here, somebody would have made their fifth film, seventh film, 10th film, all short films, right? And these films usually go to a film festival. Now, the journey of a film festival typically is to get a recognition, to
Right.
get a laurel, to say that, okay, the film was shortlisted here. That just helps to garnish the film a little better. And the idea is to walk up more confidently to the distributor to say that my film has been shown at so many film festivals, and would you like to distribute it, right? uh, if a filmmaker is not really into the film festival circuit, right, and is very convinced that the story is for the commercial cinema, not for the film festival, right, is there something that the producers guild could put together in the future about having an accessibility between such convictions and the producers? Is that something that
We
possible?
can look at it. We can look at, we can try to, probably maybe be the conduit where all stuff is lying in the producers guild in some form, digitally or in terms of a link that producers can access.
Hmm.
But I'm just afraid that, it might have so much content
So
in
much.
sheer volumes.
Yeah.
So then you start talking about curating it.
Hmm.
So who curates it? Because
Hmm.
then of course then there's a bias that comes into curation too.
Hmm.
So I think if you have a credible intermediary, whether that's you, Sonia, saying that okay, we've received 1,000 possible concepts, oblique short films,
Yeah.
and these are the 100 that we think are the high quality ones. I think
Right.
that will be more easier to manage than the whole a lot of content out there.
Perfect. So we are definitely going to do that, sir. You know, we
Look
we
forward to
we're
that.
going to reach out and bring to you some of the stories that, so because we are also trying to put in a little complicated but a selection process which
Right,
is not just jury driven, but is also basing it on two things. One, audience reaction,
right,
because finally the audience ke paas hi jani hai film, so the audience reaction. And the second thing we're basing it upon is the filmmaker's participation,
right,
because in today's time we are no longer in a time where you make a film and you let it be and you don't do anything about it and it still will see the light of the next day. May happen, of course, but also lesser, because there is so much visibility, there is so much out there likely to happen, that even if it's the most phenomenal film, but if it's not seen, it's not seen, it's over, right? So we're trying to make it tough for all of them, and make them really participate and get active and start talking about their films, and
right.
just become like, don't have any issues about talking your film. Go and promote it. Go and talk to your friends and family, to the strangers on the road. Say what your story is. Let their reactions come in. So hopefully by the end of this Malhar, we would have a better sort of films, to
Right,
probably bring to you, and to see if some of the producers could pull out time to look at them.
right.
Yeah.
No, but just to add to what you said, very correctly said, Sonia, uh, it's a hugely crowded market.
Mm.
And forget films, we are being bombarded by all sorts of messages, whether it is shows or concerts or this or that. So, no point being shy about your talent. Shout it from the rooftops and that hope to get noticed.
Yeah. Coming from you, we got to take it seriously.
So,
It's
coming from anyone, I think you have to be
Yeah.
out there. No point being, timid about it.
Yeah. It's also this space, it's a very subjective space. All of art, culture, media, and entertainment is a very subjective space. So I
Right.
think everybody wants to say it loud, but then you also feel judged. You also feel like 10 people said what a crap film it is, and it starts to
I totally get you, but ultimately you're hoping to make it big in one of the most public mediums out there.
hmm,
So you have to be open to criticism, humiliation if need be.
hmm,
And that is the way it is.
right.
You're not making a home video, you're ultimately out there for public judgment.
Absolutely. Super. So before we move on to the next leg, any questions, guys? You can just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, good evening, sir. This is Shamesh Kumar speaking from Kuwait. Uh, I'm basically an engineer and a short film maker too, into theater as well. That's my introduction. Sir, I have a very generic question. We as independent filmmakers, suppose we need to shoot a film in a place like in a railway station or in a moving train or in an airport, we may not be able to afford to make a rent a studio for that, but we want to do it in a realistic way. So what is your experience or what is your suggestion in that case? Like how do we resolve it? Is there any government bodies will support you to have like I need to have a train, a compartment shoot or something? Is there any way like we can work it out?
Honestly, Shamish, shooting in railways is an issue for everyone. It's a pretty expensive affair. And forget expensive, the getting permission itself is a pretty much of a nightmare. But that said, I think, with this under this whole Make in India program, I think they're trying to streamline the whole process. And the Film Felicitation Office has been given the mandate of trying to, sort out this whole mess with the railways permission. So you can probably contact the Film Felicitation Office and see if they can help you with that. But
I
it's tough.
see.
I know what I'm
Okay.
talking about.
But Shamus,
All
was
right.
your
Okay.
was your question specifically about the railway station, or you're talking about any space that might be difficult to shoot?
In fact, it was specifically for the railway station which I was working. I'm going to work out for an upcoming film in Kerala, basically. So I was just thinking like how to resolve it, like, or I need to rethink on my storyline. Yeah.
So what you could do is, if you are able to travel, you can probably reach out to the states which have attractive incentive policies. I don't know whether Kerala has a policy, But Rajasthan recently released one. Delhi recently released a new policy. So you can talk to them that, hey, if you're so serious about promoting filmmaking in your region, I want to shoot in a railway station. What can you give me? Let's see whether they're talking the talk,
Yeah.
walking the walk.
Understand. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
That's a good approach. That's basically saying that, okay, let's not get fixed at a location that we may think it is. As long as you want a railway station, it can be anybody, anywhere. So try and see the states which are more cooperative and
Right.
more forthcoming, and do that scene there.
And
Rest
just do
of it.
that bit, then come
Yeah.
back to Trivandrum, Kochi, wherever.
Yeah, understand.
See,
Thank
that's
you.
the producer's brain working. Saying,
That's why I asked from their
yeah,
point of view. Like,
perfect,
thank you very much, sir.
Most welcome.
perfect. Anything else? Anything? Any question? Sure, Anirudh, go ahead, please. बोलिए.
जी नमस्कार सर.
Hello.
मैं ये पूछना चाह रहा हूँ कि कभी भी जब किसी कंटेंट को क्रिएट करते हैं तो हमारे जो क्रिएटिविटी का प्रोसेस होता है उसमें प्रोड्यूसर्स का एक बड़ा पार्ट होता है. तो हम इंडिपेंडेंट फिल्म मेकर्स को ये बड़ा डर होता है कि जब हम उनके साथ काम करेंगे किसी भी एक उनके अंडर में, तो हमारी क्रिएटिविटी कहीं ना कहीं कंट्रोल की जाएगी. तो और उनके बिना ये काम पूरा भी नहीं किया जा सकता है. तो बहुत बार ये मन में ख्याल आता है कि हम सेल्फ उसे प्रोड्यूस करें, खुद से उसे मतलब फंड करें वगैरह. तो इस बैलेंस को इसे कैसे मतलब मेंटेन करें, आप इसके बारे में थोड़ा बताएं.
नहीं, आपका क्वेश्चन बहुत जेन्युइन भी है एंड बहुत रियलिस्टिक भी है, बट मेरे ख्याल से इसका कोई आसान जवाब तो है ही नहीं. इन द अभी एक तरह से प्रोड्यूसर का मेंटालिटी होगा कि यार आप नए हो, मैं एक्सपीरियंस से बोल रहा हूँ अभी, और काफी लोग का ईगो भी होता है कि नहीं मैं सब जानता हूँ. अभी वो आपको बैलेंस करना है कि यार अगर एक बड़े बैनर के साथ मेरी फिल्म बनती है तो उसके एडवांटेज क्या है वर्सेस स्मॉल, मैं खुद प्रोड्यूस करूंगा एट अ स्मॉल स्केल विद फुल क्रिएटिव फ्रीडम. तो वो एक बहुत बैलेंस है. एंड सी, अगर आप थोड़ा मार्केट में पता करेंगे तो कुछ कुछ प्रोड्यूसर्स बहुत इंटरफेयर करते हैं, कुछ कुछ प्रोड्यूसर ज्यादा ओपन होते हैं, तो वो आपको थोड़ा रिसर्च करना पड़ेगा. अब वो कौन अच्छे है कौन बुरे वो मैं बोल नहीं सकता, वो सब मेरे मेंबर ही हो गए. बट वो आपका पॉइंट बहुत वैलिड है. और मैं और बोलता हूँ, एक ये डर भी होता है कि यार मेरा कोई कॉन्सेप्ट चोरी ना कर दे. मैं प्रेजेंट करूंगा, कोई और बना देगा, चोरी करके मैं किधर आऊंगा ही नहीं. तो उसके लिए एज अ मे बी एज अ राइटर यू शुड रजिस्टर एट एक स्क्रीन राइटर्स एसोसिएशन है. आप अपना कॉन्सेप्ट वहां पर रजिस्टर करिए, कॉपीराइट ऑफिस करिए, बिकॉज हमारे मेंबर के साथ नहीं होता, बट इंडस्ट्री बहुत बड़ी है. प्रोड्यूसर बनने के कोई भी प्रोड्यूसर बन सकता है. तो ये होता है, आपको संभाल के रखना पड़ेगा आपके, स्पेशली अगर बहुत यूनिक कॉन्सेप्ट हो तो.
जी ओके, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सो मच.
थैंक यू अनिरुद्ध.
Yes, I have a question. Hi, I am Shudomo. I'm from Kolkata. I'm definitely a filmmaker, and I also do produce, and I do have my own production house as well. I just wanted to know. So I do have my own production house. It's a private limited company. Now, so like, do I need to register in the production guild or something to kind of register my company under the production guild association?
Not at all. It's not mandatory at all. In fact,
Okay.
I'm sure there will be some West Bengal, yeah, Bengali Film Association too in West Bengal.
Right.
There is nothing that there's no mandatory thing at all of being a member of Producers Guild of India.
But what are the benefits?
No, but yeah, what are the benefits? Like,
see, one is that they are looking at us as a via media to reach out to the government, etc., etc., etc. So in fact, we have a pretty limited membership. We just have around 160 members, which is by choice. I'm sure there are thousands of producers. See, our whole idea is that we need to have active producers as members. Not
right.
someone who made a film 10 years back, but he's still a member and casting a vote, because the concerns that you will have as an active, like, our friend was saying that he's shooting in, he's having an issue shooting in railways. That is something which is today's problem. Anirudh's problem is today's problems, so you can't have old baggage just driving the guild agenda. So The idea is that you have active producers, current producers on board, and then they know what the issues are, whether it's with theatrical, with OTT, or just in regulation. Then one more benefit of joining associations, which is any association, not just the guild, is there's a process of a title registration, which is the industry norm, where which is how you get a film title, web title, which circulates within all the associations. So for
Right.
that, it may be beneficial for you to join, and you can join any association, not just the Producers Guild of India.
Right. And may I know the process? Like, what's the process in brief?
So basically, you write into us expressing your interest, and then all the other members take a call whether they want to, admit you or not. It's a pretty simple process.
Right. Okay.
It's a
Thank
closed
you.
community. It's a closed community, and like sir is saying, that it's by choice. So it's not
Mhm.
about that. Okay, whoever can pay the membership money should can come in, but it's
Like,
a
in fact,
choice
that
because what they're
right.
because they're representing all of the producers, right? So it
Mm.
has to be people for whom the context is alive, and the context is to make producing easier, fairer, to make
Yeah,
problem solving. That is easier said than done, but it is not everybody's vision. So it is only
absolutely.
a few people who will think largely for the entire community, and I guess that's what they're looking for, in
So
Right.
Bombay.
even in Bombay, you have two other associations. There's a body called IFTPC,
Mm,
and there's a body called IMPA.
mm,
And in fact,
Yes.
numerically, our membership is the least in terms of the number of members.
Right.
Their membership runs in thousands. But it is to ask the government of India will say, okay, union budget is coming out. What is the industry looking at? मिलता कुछ नहीं है, but at least they approach us की. So we are because of quality of membership. So whether it's Yashraj, Dharma, Excel, Star, Netflix, and mind you, it's not about being big producers. It's about being active.
mm.
So
Mm.
even if you're one film more, but you're active, we want you because your concerns will be more relevant and more realistic.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Also,
All right. So not to go overtime on you, I know your time is super super precious. Because you've had the luxury of talking to you, would you like to share maybe one story that comes to your mind about in your current role, the kind of challenges that you deal, and so something that happened, and then you did some work to it and it resolved, you know just to get an access of continuity to what you said about a day in your work, but there we got the bullet points, right? But probably something that happened and you resolved, and more often in this COVID times there has been so many changes that you all have been working on. Is there anything that comes to your mind on that?
I think personally for me, the most fulfilling thing we did as the guild was actually arranging a vaccine camp.
Hmm.
And this happened, I think this was in June of 2021
Mm-hmm.
when vaccines were totally not available.
Right.
So then they introduced the whole workplace vaccination program. But that there you need a certain amount of volume to qualify for that. So all of our producers pulled in together, and I think around 10,000 people got vaccinated. And this
Wow.
was for the entire crew. So your spot boys, lightmen, and all. So not a major thing, but it was personally very fulfilling for us that we were able to do it at a time when there was no vaccine available even at PMC centers over here, the municipal corporation centers over here.
No, it's huge because the whole crew, especially the crew is literally like a daily wage labor. So being out on work hit this industry really really deep down. So
And one
getting
more
the
thing I'm like very very proud of is that when COVID actually hit us for the first time, most Western markets, whether it is US, UK, they had support programs for the entertainment industry. So UK, US were giving a certain amount of monies to all talent, whether it is in production or everywhere. But we had no such support system. Of course, we are a different market with huge population, not as wealthy. So at that time, I'm very happy to say that all of our members actually chipped in financially, put their money where their mouth is, and we were able to raise more than 20 crores.
wow.
Because see, all the people who are depending on daily going to a set on a daily basis, getting that wage, depend on a shoot to happen. And
Hmm.
shoots were not allowed at all.
Yeah.
And that 20-30 crores was enough to support them for the good 3-4 months till shooting resumed. So I think that was something I'm
Phenomenal.
very proud of.
to spend from your own pocket.
At a
That,
time when production is disrupted.
yeah,
And of
when
course,
your own, yeah, when
right.
your
So
own inflow is not there, then to
right.
stand for the community. Now, I'd heard of that, sir. I'd heard of that, but I mean, hearing it from you makes it all real, and it's not a media-driven conversation, but it's you saying it makes it all valid. Wow. I think as a nation, of course, we have a heart of gold, and we're all very warm people, but we need to build little more structures together, for people to feel secure, for people to stay in the industry. you know
Right.
i I mean, that's one of the things, but why parents don't encourage or didn't encourage younger people to get into movies or entertainment was like, future kya hoga, तो दो चार साल करोगे and then फिर आगे क्या होगा, which is not true. It depends on what you do in those 2 3 years also takes it forward.
which is which is I can't really preaching the choir over here. And it is so sad that we tend to equate film industry, Bollywood with those 5 6 very successful, affluent people.
Hmm.
And then you have these media campaigns, big bad Bollywood, boycott Bollywood and all. But yeah, these are 10 people. There are millions of people who depend on it. You're on it for a daily basis.
Right.
And you're right. There's this perception that यहाँ पे सब druggies है, क्या हो रहा है. So a middle class guy trying to come to this industry from Indore is trying to think, manja bete, it's a big bad industry over there, which is sad.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying put filmmakers or stars on a pedestal,
Hmm.
but I think we fail to see how lucky we are to have such a vibrant industry. Tell me which Sri Lankan film star you know of, or Bangladeshi web show. We have to not uh, build up the people, but we have to nurture the industry at least, because it is a part of a social power, soft power that we have as a nation, and
Absolutely.
millions depend on it for survival.
Yeah.
यार आपका जो हेयर सलून में अमिताभ बच्चन हेयर कट दे रहा है या शाहरुख खान के कपड़े का सूट बना रहा है, he is depending on the film industry in a way.
Yeah.
So let's keep the industry alive and let's not diss it just for the heck of it.
And just like circle around a few people and consider that that's what the industry is. No, they're only a part of the industry, small or big, whatever.
Who is wrong? What is wrong? Of course, go behind them, but you can't just label an entire industry as as them.
Yeah. And also, this is an industry where everything is in the public eye, but
Absolutely.
ultimately, everybody's a human being. So, I mean, all sorts of people exist everywhere. Just because they are not in the public eye, तो कुछ पता नहीं चलता है कि कहाँ क्या हो रहा है. यहाँ पे everything is a public chat.
And जो बुरा कर रहा है उसको you call him out, let the law do whatever needs to be done with them.
Yeah.
No, but you can't. आपका जो spot boy है जो maybe कोई production house में काम कर रहा है, that doesn't, you can't attribute him as that also, right?
As that also, yeah.
I
So,
think Akash has put some
yeah,
questions on the
Akash is
chat.
sending too many questions. I might have missed this earlier, but I want to know, how can we pitch the producer? What are the key points that we should be prepared that can make it turn into our favor?
I think, as we were talking about earlier, you need to stand out. Now, if you're just going to do one more derivative love story or a comedy franchise, it's not going to work. And producers have access to, they're watching content themselves, they're getting so many concepts in the inbox. So it has to be something really unique for it to be noticed. Which doesn't mean it has to be outlandish, it just has to be true to something that hasn't been explored before, hasn't been seen before. It could just be the way you're looking at it in terms of treatment or uniqueness of the story itself. But that said, it is tough to be noticed. There's no denying that.
Yeah. But then, but it's tough to be noticed, but then people also get noticed. So it's not like it's not happening. There is unfortunately no easier way. But I think getting your work out to maximum people, try meeting them, talking to them, staying convinced about the story that you really want to tell, I think that is what always has been, and that wouldn't change.
No, but now, Surya, thanks to like mediums like a Malar Festival, YouTube, at least you have a way of putting content out there. Like 20 years back, we didn't even have satellite television to this extent. So it was just a theater that you could really reach out to. So now, at least you have a chance of being noticed.
I know, I was just sharing this with a colleague the other day, that back in the time when I used to work on films, we didn't have spare footage to play with,
Right.
because there was no internet, right? So
Right.
like right now, where we get 30 seconds from here and 60 seconds from here, and improvise upon our edit, we didn't have that, and we didn't have the money to go and shoot, like the DV cam tapes were our month's pocket money, so didn't have that, and then to get the camera, hiring, all of that was a lot of money. So for a long time we didn't even have access to something, a way by which you can tell what's on your mind and
Right.
to put it together. Right now, today, of course, all of that at least is sorted. That also means that it's overcrowded because it's become very easy. So there are different challenges of this time, but I guess
Absolutely.
right now we are in a good time in that sense, that if you can actually put your story together, then one part of the work has happened.
Right.
At least you have your story in your hand, and then to find a person who will support you in getting the story ahead. Yeah, okay, that's also easier. There's internet, you can get through people.
Right.
Awesome. So thank you so much.
My pleasure
That's
entirely.
hearing things straight from you is not just a validation, but also makes us feel that there are real people sitting at the producers guild, and it's not just tough people. You come across as such a nice gentleman, so I think all of us hearing would feel more related to the producers here on. I think आपने impression producers का बहुत अच्छा कर दिया.
Thank you so much, sir. And it's been a real pleasure. I want to wish everyone who's attending all the very best. As I said in the beginning, it's tough, but the rewards are great. And I think true talent always comes through. You look at Nawazuddin doing a one-bit role in Talash, then to now leading films. And there's so many examples, I think, in every field, as direction, whether it is in writing. So just keep at it and fingers crossed.
Yeah. I'm going to send you an access to the festival, sir, whenever you can find
I've
time.
got someone mailed
Yeah,
me
you got the mail, right? Yeah, so
one meet, I
whenever
think,
you can
mailed me.
find time, please watch the films.
Definitely will.
Yeah.
Definitely will.
And if you drop in your comments, your feedback onto their films, it will mean a lot.
I will definitely will.
So Netflix subscription cancelled for a few days, and you have the Malhar subscription.
Done.
Awesome. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Everybody's
Thank you so
thanking
much.
you. Everybody's just thanking you, sir. Thank you. Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed listening to the gentleman himself. Uh, we have another half an hour now, and we will be moving into a conversation with Blaze. So Blaze has been the founder director of 3 of the world's best film festivals. So he has been the one who chooses stories, and so, like, of course, like at Malhar, if you send the festival, there is a team which chooses the story, which shortlisted. He's been behind the 3 biggest festivals, and so look, and he's a filmmaker, of course, himself. So what we are specifically trying to prick into his brain is what works, right? Considering that he's been a part of the selection team at such a large level, but he has a heart and a mind of a filmmaker himself. And he's going to bring in some points that are very important for us to know at this point of time, because he can actually look at content of film from both sides, from a person who's instrumental in choosing the films, making sure that they go to the distributors, but having a heart of a filmmaker himself, right? So let's meet at 10 o'clock. Do your reading a little bit about Blaze Crimson, and if you have specific question, shoot it right ahead in the conversation. All right. See you around half an hour. Bye bye.